Years ago, when e-commerce was still an experiment, Jason Goldberg was already building the future. In 1995, he launched Blockbuster's first e-commerce site, helping shape the digital retail revolution. Today, as Chief Commerce Strategy Officer at Publicis Groupe, he advises the world's leading retailers and brands on how to win in the next era of commerce. A global retail influencer and co-host of the Jason and Scott Show, Jason is one of the industry's most trusted voices on what comes next. Today, he will explore how artificial intelligence is transforming commerce and the rise of the AI native consumer. Please welcome Jason Retail Geek Goldberg.
Hola, buenos dias. Congratulations, this has already been an amazing event, and I'm very excited to talk to you. But I have prepared too much content for my time, so I'm going to jump right into it. Do you all remember your first day on the job? And the very first day you started your current role, and your boss gave you this sheet of paper with all your duties, your job description. You remember that? I worked for a pompous French ad agency, and so my job description was in Latin. But I had a very scary sentence at the bottom of that job description, and I think many of us in this room might have had that same final sentence. Do y'all remember the very bottom of your job description where it said, other duties as assigned? Yeah, scary. So the other duty as assigned that I was given when I started was a duty that I was certain would get me fired from my job. It was this scary job. I was sent to Bentonville, Arkansas to help the then CEO of Walmart, this gentleman, Doug McMillon, to make his PowerPoint presentations maybe a little bit more funny. So I spent 8 years helping Doug prepare presentations for board meetings, investor presentations, and all sorts of public presentations. The folks at Walmart are really smart, and they write all the important content, but I would sometimes try to make it a more entertaining story. If you don't know, Doug retired last month. So I, in fact, was not fired. I survived that role. Doug is an annoyingly competent, successful, kind person who would never say a cross word to anyone. About the most mean thing I ever heard him say in private to me was that he would privately remind me that he is 2 years younger than me. And he's now retired, so I'm very bitter. But before Doug retired, I stole his phone, because Doug has an Apple phone with a camera roll like we all have, and he has a picture favorited on his phone. And I stole that picture to show you today. Oh, darn it, I forgot. Before I get to the exciting phone picture that I just queued up, I should tell you that all of those PowerPoint decks that I helped Doug make, the word that I use most often in those decks, the most common word was actually a number. It was 4,700, because Doug would talk about everything through the lens of the customer, through the lens of the store. He would say, this happened in our 4,700 stores. This happened in our 4,000 supercenters, our 700 Sam's Club stores. He would always talk about the store as the front door of Walmart. And about 2.5 years ago, he came to me and he said, hey, Jason, we're going to change the number. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that makes sense because there are more stores now. We should raise the number. He said, we are going to use 50 million. And I said, what is that about? And he explained it to me. He said, Jason, 50 million households in the U.S. have the Walmart app on the front page of their phone, and they use it every month to help them shop. So to me, the front door of Walmart is no longer that supercenter. It's that supercomputer in her pocket. And so we started talking about the digital front door of Walmart as we went forward. So this brings me to the stolen picture I mentioned of his phone. And here, I think, is the actual picture, yes. So this is a picture that has a list of the top 10 retailers in the US every decade. And it's to remind him that no one is guaranteed to be at the top of that list forever. And he talks about how when he started in the 80s, he felt like Walmart was a David, and they were staring up at the hill at these giant Goliaths like Sears and Kmart. And he went to bed one day, and he woke up the next morning, and suddenly Walmart is Goliath. And David is not another traditional retailer. It's Amazon and Mercado Libre and Pinduoduo. And instead of slingshots, they have nuclear missiles that they're aiming at Walmart. And so Doug was very cognizant that Walmart was not guaranteed to stay at the top forever, and he was very aware of all the things that might disrupt Walmart. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. The disruption that we worried the most about, the disruption that we talked the most about, is what I like to call the disruption of discovery. So I've been doing this quite a while. I'm a fourth-generation retailer. And for my entire career, the greatest source of leads, the greatest way that we met new customer was this thing that we called SIS. Do you know what SIS is? Saw in store. I went to the store to get Oreos for my kids' lunch, and there on the shelf next to the Oreos were the Coca-Cola flavored Oreos. And we would have to decide whether we would take those Oreos home and try them for the first time, right? And that's how retail has always worked. Our friends at Procter & Gamble actually came up with a name for this. They called it the first moment of truth. That moment when you had to decide if you were going to take that newly discovered choice home with you and make it part of your lifestyle, right? And we all invented a new marketing discipline around that. One of your speakers yesterday, Andy Murray, was one of the godfathers of this marketing discipline. Tom in the audience today is one of the founders of this discipline. We called it shopper marketing, right? And it was all about helping customers discover new things in the store and make more purchases and live better as a result, right? So I wanted to make an example to make it more real for all of you. If it's not already painfully obvious to those of you in the audience, I have a wildly unhealthy relationship with caffeine. I drink much too much coffee. I actually travel every week for work. I travel too much. And so my preferred coffee is Starbucks because it's the same everywhere I go. It's always available. And so I drink far too much Starbucks. So I want you to think about the first moment of truth for Starbucks. I would go into a grocery store, and I have to walk by 38 other choices of coffee before I get to Starbucks. And all of these coffees had a chance for a first moment of truth. They had a chance to conquest me, to cause me to discover their new products, to make me an offer. Maybe the Dunkin' Donut-flavored coffee would appeal to me today. And even if they're not successful, even if I walk by all 38 of those brands and I get to my beloved Starbucks section, Starbucks still has a chance to expand their relationship with me. They get to tell me about their new flavor profiles, their new formats. They get to have a new first moment of truth with me, right? And this is how retail has always worked. This is still today a super important part of the retail experience. Only one problem. Does anyone in this audience, you've all known me for 5 minutes, does anyone in this audience believe that that's how I, Jason Retail Geek Goldberg, buy coffee? Yeah, no, unlikely, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to go to Target, and I'm going to type coffee into the search engine, and look what happens. I parachute right down to the giant kegs of iced coffee that I buy in bulk and store in my refrigerator so that I can put them in my IV and mainline them while I'm talking to all of you on Zoom, right? You think I'm joking, but this is my refrigerator when I left the house this week. I didn't get a chance for a first moment of truth with any of those other brands. I didn't get a chance for a first moment of truth with new Starbucks products. I just saw the product that I always buy, right? And even that is not really how people discover coffee today. Do you know how they discover coffee? Yeah, the TikTok, right? This is a video that went viral several years ago on TikTok. A gentleman took this product we all forgot about, instant coffee, powdered coffee, and he put it in a cup with sugar, hot water. He emulsified it. He poured it over ice, and it was this delicious, sugary, caramely, caffeine delivery vehicle that he called whipped coffee. And when he uploaded this video to TikTok, in the first week, it was viewed 10 million times. More talented creators made other versions of this video that were viewed tens of millions of times. And that week, I got a panicked call from my friends at Walmart. Jason, we are sold out of instant coffee nationwide, and we have no idea why. Right? And think about it. Walmart has the greatest supply chain in the history of mankind. Can Walmart replenish instant coffee to 4,700 shelves in a week? No. And how long did this trend last? The trend lasted a month. Did anyone here have whipped coffee this morning? No, we should have, though. I think next time we'll host some whipped coffee. So the point is not, oh my gosh, we have to be able to restock our shelves in a week, because you can't always predict what's going to go viral. My point is that I have received a phone call like that from a retailer every week for the last 2 years. This month, I was at a meeting at Sam's Club, which is owned by Walmart. And at this meeting, they're talking about an influencer on TikTok who was cooking with Sam's Club imitation crab legs. And the video was so popular that Sam's Club was sold out of imitation crab legs nationwide. And literally in this meeting, someone said, do you think we can sell real crab legs and call them imitation crab legs? Which is not a good idea for trust. But I wanted to pick another example to make this even more real for you all. So I picked this amazing heritage brand here in the US. They've been around for over 150 years. They make this product that your parents may have told you about. It's called Tools. You remember Tools? The hammer. And it turns out, in the 1800s, if you took tools to work, you probably also had to take your lunch to work. And so their second very popular product was the Stanley thermos. So you could take your coffee or your soup to work with you. And this was a very successful product for Stanley. And about 150 years later, they had an interesting question. They said, I wonder if we could sell thermoses to people that don't use tools for a living. A great question. And so they did what any smart brand would do. They went out and they talked to customers. They did market research. They asked people, and they met this guy, Terrence Riley. They said, Terrence, do you think we could sell thermoses to people that don't use tools? And Terrence got very excited. Terrence said, oh my goodness, you could absolutely sell thermoses. You just need to make them in a bunch of cool colors. And you may be wondering why Terrence said that. If you don't know, Terrence at the time was the chief marketing officer for a company called Crocs. And they were so excited with his answer that they hired him to be the president of Stanley 1913, the Stanley Beverage Company, and to launch their first product, which he did, the Stanley Quencher. Does anyone notice a resemblance? Yeah. And this product, you've all seen it, it was very successful. The first year that it launched, Terrence sold $75 million worth of thermoses, right? And this would have been a terrific first year for a new product in a new category. But we probably wouldn't be talking about it on stage today if that's the end of the story. That would have been the end of the story were it not for one person. You know who that is? It's a young woman named Danielle Lettering. And Danielle Lettering is, by all accounts, a lovely woman. She's a substitute teacher who had a very bad day at work one day. She's driving to work, and her car spontaneously combust into flames. Very scary, right? So don't panic. She wasn't hurt. She pulled over. The fire department came and put out the fire. They towed her car to the lot. They called her the next day and said, Danielle, come to the lot. Get your possessions out of this burnt-out car. So she goes to the lot with her boyfriend, and he's filming this for TikTok as she walks up to this very scary automobile. And look what's in the cup holder of the car. A Stanley thermos. I have the audio turned off right now, but do you know what she's hearing? Ice. There's still ice in the Stanley quencher in the car after it burnt down. And I know what you're all thinking. You're all thinking, Jason, this sounds very sus. I have a 10-year-old at home, so I speak young person. Sus. Suspicious. It's been investigated by numerous journalists. It seems like it's a very true story. But you remember Terrence Riley, the president? He saw this on TikTok, and he knew exactly what to do with the opportunity. He jumped on TikTok, and he said, oh my gosh, Danielle, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but we've got you. We're going to buy you a new car. This time, a Mazda, not another Kia. And so there's two amazing lessons from this story. The first lesson is for all of your brands, do not be Kia in this story. The second lesson is the next year. Do you know how many thermoses Terrence sold? $750 million. We all talk about growth. We all talk about trying to find 10% growth in a market that's only growing by 4%. But I'm here to tell you, there's 1,000% growth for all of us out there. If only we can unlock this new discovery on these social networks. If only we can help more people discover our products in more ways. If you don't know, Unilever got a new CEO from Brazil last year, Fernando Fernandes. He has very little to do with this story, but I just love saying the name Fernando Fernandes. It's the greatest name in CPG. But he made a very big splash when he first started. He said, I am a huge believer in marketing. And Unilever is going to spend more on marketing than ever before. Last year, we spent 13.6% of our budget on marketing. This year, we'll spend 16% of our budget. That's an increase of over $2 billion US. But I have one stipulation. I want to take half of all that new money, and I want to spend it on Danielle lettering. I want a Danielle lettering in 10,000 postal codes in India, in 4,000 postal codes in Brazil. I want a Danielle lettering in every zip code in the world, because what Unilever says about Unilever is no longer credible. It no longer matters. Only what matters is what the local Danielle lettering in that market says about Unilever. And so he changed their marketing approach. And this year in his earnings call, he doubled down on this. He said, the days of giant brand building with big events are over. Today, it's the era of the creator, of the micro-influencer. And so Unilever and many other brands are now pivoting to talk through these authentic voices, right? But I wanted to pick one final example to show you how this all works. And I picked an example that's very near and dear to my heart right now for a reason that will become obvious. This is the first moment of truth for sunscreen. Can anyone in here recognize the best sunscreen on this shelf? Oh, all right, a good one. However, I would argue that most customers can't actually tell visually that Banana Boat is the best. And if I were to even take it out of the tube and squirt it in your hands and say, can you pick the one that's least poisonous, that's most effective, that's the most water resistant? We would all have a hard time choosing, right? So we all choose based on the brand, the famousness of our brand building. But you know what's happening today? You're not choosing based on that brand. Do you know how you choose sometimes today? I already told you, the TikTok. Yeah, people are paying attention. This is Dr. Shah, Dr. Derm on TikTok. he will very quickly tell you that the most effective sunscreen in the US is an illegal, not FDA-approved sunscreen that you have to import from South Korea. And as a result of he and many others talking about this trend, you may be familiar with the most popular trend in beauty in the US today, which is Korean beauty products being imported into the US. When I met Dr. Shah, he had 20,000 followers on TikTok. Today, he has 20 million followers on TikTok. And you may have all seen him in his commercial on the Super Bowl, right? So this is how people are discovering products. In addition to the store, they're discovering them on social. And what we're all worried about is that you might start asking the robot for advice, right? What happens if I go to ChatGPT and I go, hey, I'm going on vacation to Hawaii, humble brag, with my 10-year-old son, and I need a sunscreen. What sunscreen should I buy? And look what the robot gives me as an answer. She says, I know from previous conversations that your son has eczema, and so he needs a sunscreen for sensitive skin. And in Hawaii, it has to be reef safe. And you're going to be in the water, so it should be waterproof. And it gives me all these criteria, and it says, here are the 4 sunscreens that best meet that criteria. Only one problem. I'm tricking you. This is not the results that ChatGPT would give. This is the results that ChatGPT would have given 9 months ago. Do you know what the results are today? And click right here and buy it. Here's a product tile. Let's click on it. Oh, good news. One click here, we'll have Walmart ship it to you tomorrow. You didn't have to pick a brand. You didn't have to pick a retailer. You simply ask a life question to the robot, and the robot answers that question by fulfilling your need. The gap between buying and selling becomes smaller, and you didn't have a first moment of truth. You didn't pick a brand. You didn't express your banana boat loyalty. You simply got what you needed, right? This is not, hey, robot, order more peanut butter for my kid's lunch. This is, hey, robot, never let me run out of ingredients for my kid's lunch again. And think about what the robot's going to do. She's going to go, oh, Jason's kid goes to Chicago public schools. Here's the lunch schedule. And Jason travels on United. He has a vacation scheduled for Hawaii. Humble brag. And Jason buys all his groceries at Walmart. Even though Chicago is actually the furthest place in the U.S. from a Walmart store, Jason buys all his groceries at Walmart because I'm pandering to my client. And I can see from Jason's Walmart purchases that Jason's kid does not even eat peanut butter. Jason's kid only eats pirate booty. A very unhealthy treat. And so, I'm going to make sure that the Goldberg pantry never runs out of pirate booty, right? This is this idea of agentic commerce. This idea that the robot won't just do a task for us. It won't just answer a simple question. That it will use multiple data sources and solve a complex problem for us on an ongoing basis. Agentic commerce. In the video that was just shown, it mentioned that I'm super old and that I started my first e-commerce site in the early 90s. And so back then, it took 22 clicks to buy something. And I spent my whole career getting us down to 4 clicks. And I honestly thought that's what would be on my tombstone. Here lies Jason Retail Geek Goldberg. He got us down to 4 clicks. And then the bastards invented 1 click. Do you know why I'm angry about 1 click? Do you know how many clicks it takes to make a 1-click purchase? It takes 4 clicks. They just branded it better, and I'm so mad that I didn't think of that. But what we're talking about now with agentic commerce is 0 clicks. No one even having to buy something. When I launched that first e-commerce site, I got a very angry phone call from Visa. Jason, you're violating the terms and conditions of our agreement. In fact, we think what you're doing is illegal. You're charging the customer's credit card, but you do not have the customer's credit card in front of you. That's called a card not present transaction, and it's not allowed. And we all had to invent a way to allow merchants to accept a credit card even when they didn't have the credit in front of them. We called them card-not-present transactions, and today they're super common and easy. But do you know what we're talking about today with the payment companies? Human, not present transactions. What do we do when the robot buys something on behalf of a human and the human is never involved, right? And this is being fought in the open right now. These are two announcements from last week. Target updated their terms and conditions to say, if a robot buys something from Target, you're responsible. Your robot, your responsibility. In the same week, American Express updated their terms and conditions to say, if you let a robot buy something on your behalf with an American Express card, and it's a mistake or there's fraud, we will not hold you liable. We will protect you, right? So the world is fighting about how these human not present transactions will even work. And the guy that invented this whole idea, the guy that coined the phrase agentic commerce, is this guy, Professor Andrew Ng. He's the most credible AI researcher in the world. He's a professor at Stanford. He ran Google's DeepMind AI laboratory. He was People magazine's most interesting man in the world in 2013 for his AI research. And he coined the phrase agentic commerce. He invented the idea that the robots would work as agents on our behalf and do complicated things. And if you're wondering what Professor Ng is doing today, where could you find Professor Ng? I would like to introduce you all to the newest board member at Amazon. So if you're wondering what Amazon thinks the future of commerce is, there's a pretty good bet that it involves agentic commerce, right? And we already saw it this holiday period. Amazon had a robot called Rufus, and Walmart has a robot called Sparky. And they each shared some success criteria from this holiday season. Amazon said that 50% of everyone that shopped this holiday season on Amazon used Rufus. And when they used Rufus, they were 60% more likely to make a purchase. And Walmart said that half of all the people with that Walmart app on their phone used Sparky over the holiday, and that their cart sizes were 35% bigger than people that did not use Sparky. So millions and millions of shoppers were introduced to the robots, Rufus and Sparky, over holiday. They had a good outcome, and now we're all rushing forward to build more and better robots and make them into every experience possible. But do you know what Amazon and Walmart are most worried about? They're most worried you'll never use their robot. We call their robot a vertical robot. It's a robot dedicated to shopping. You go to Walmart, and then you say, Sparky, help me pick my groceries. But what if you ask a robot for help before you ever go to Walmart? What if you ask ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or Copilot? What if you don't ever go shopping, if you just ask a life question and this robot solves the problem before you ever pick a retailer? We call these robots horizontal robots. And this is the great battle being waged right now. Horizontal robots versus vertical robots. Walmart or Amazon just had their earnings call, and Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, he spent all of his time on retail talking about why he believes Amazon's Rufus will be a better bot than ChatGPT from OpenAI. And he says, I'll tell you why we're going to have a better experience. We know all of your purchase intent. We know what you buy, what you don't buy, what you consume. And we're going to use all that intent to give you a better shopping experience. And so we think the vertical bots will win. But what he doesn't say is that the Google bot has an advantage too. The Google bot knows all of your health conditions. It knows all of your vacation plans. It knows your retirement plans. It knows everything you've ever asked Google or now Gemini about life. And so Google would say, we believe we're going to get good at commerce before Amazon's going to get good at everything else. And this is the big battle, horizontal agents versus vertical agents. And if you're wondering what Amazon thinks the strategy is, you got a big clue 2 days ago. 2 days ago, Amazon said, oh, and by the way, Rufus was just a beta test. He's retired now. Rufus was Jeff Bezos' dog, by the way. Today, we're launching Amazon Alexa Plus everywhere you shop. So now, the homepage of Amazon is called Alexa, and the robot in the corner is called Alexa, and you don't even have to click on the robot. If you just use the search engine, you won't get a search result, you'll get an Alexa result. And if you want to shop, you don't have to even go to Amazon. You can use their voice agent that's built into millions of devices that they sell and that other people sell. So what Amazon is doing is saying, oh, my gosh, we do need to know more about people's lives. We better make our bot a horizontal bot too. And so this is the big fight that's playing out right now. And we already have evidence that it's working. Last year, ChatGPT released data. They said, we know everyone's wondering how everybody's using ChatGPT, so we're going to anonymize all our data, and we're going to give it to some smart people at Harvard to tell everyone what they're doing. And the researchers at Harvard took all the data, and here's what they told us. They said, in January of 2025, so 18 months ago, 1 billion people a day typed a question into ChatGPT. 6 months later, in July of 2025, 2 billion people a day were typing prompts into ChatGPT. So their traffic doubled in 6 months. It's almost certainly doubled again. And of all those 2 billion prompts a day, 1.9% tried to buy something. 1.9% of 2 billion prompts a day tried to buy something. So I did the public math for us all. That's 52 million prompts a day trying to buy something from ChatGPT in July of 2025. Do you know what's interesting about that? Do you know what you could not do in July of 2025? Buy anything. That's right. There were no commerce features on ChatGPT whatsoever. No product database, no product tiles, no product comparison. And yet, 52 million times a day, people tried to buy something. And I said, is 52 million times a day a lot? So I compared it to the largest e-commerce sites in the world. And just so you know, in July of 2025, before ChatGPT had a single commerce feature, they were the 9th largest e-commerce site in the world. And think about what they've done since then. They've doubled their traffic. They've added all these commerce features. When I extrapolate it here to the US, it's almost 7 million prompts a day in the US. They're already bigger than Kroger. They're already bigger than Best Buy. And again, that's before they added any commerce features. So what are we all doing right now? We're trying to make sure that the robot recommends our products. That when you type a question into the robot, our products show up. And we call that GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. In truth, we can't agree on what to call it, so a lot of people call it AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. And so everywhere I go, to every client, we now have a report. Here's how often Procter & Gamble shows up. Here's how often they don't, and why, right? And this is a really good tactic for us all to be starting. But I actually would encourage you to start somewhere more strategic. If GEO is a tactic, Agent Commerce Optimization is the strategy. What is our strategy? Are we going to try to sell our products direct on the horizontal bots, or are we going to block the horizontal bots from learning about our content? Are we going to create new content to share with our retail partners, bots, or are we going to create new content that we hold private for our own bots? Are we hoping the vertical bots win or lose? When we first launched e-commerce, most brands in this room knew 8 attributes about their product. And the e-commerce guy asked you for 30. And it was very difficult to go from 8 to 30. The robots want to know 3,000 attributes about every product you have for sale. So we suddenly have this huge new problem that we have to solve, agentic commerce optimization. So I don't want to leave you with a problem. I want to leave you with a solution. So I want to go back to my friend Doug, who I learned so much from. I was in a meeting with Doug about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now. And it's a big deal to get a meeting with Doug, right? Like, it's a huge thing. And people prepare and they're nervous. It's totally natural. And again, Doug's annoyingly kind. And he sat down at this table and he said, hey, thank you guys so much for all the hard work. I know you prepared really hard for this meeting. But before we get started, I have one question for you. how did you all use AI to prepare for this meeting? And you could hear a pin drop. It was so silent. Everybody's face fell down because they had not used AI to prepare for this meeting. Of course they wouldn't have, right? Like who would have thought of that 2.5 years ago? And it felt like we sat there in total silence for 10 minutes. It was probably like 5 seconds. And then some brave soul chimed in. Doug, we didn't use AI to prepare for this meeting. And I'm like, oh, that's not surprising. I wouldn't have thought to do that. And then he paused and he said, AI is illegal at Walmart. And we all took a double take. What? What are you talking about? AI is illegal? Oh, yeah, Doug. We get emails from the IT department every week. AI hallucinates. Don't use AI. AI leaks data, and people will steal our data, and our private information will get out on the interweb. You are not allowed to use any AI tools at Walmart. And Doug suddenly had a panic. He thought, oh, my God, this is what's going to replace us at the top of that list in my pocket. I have 1.6 million employees who are afraid to use AI. We've got to fix that. And so you know what he did? He said AI is not illegal. We're going to buy ChatGPT for all 1.6 million Walmart associates. And then he realized, oh my gosh, ChatGPT was the best tool last month, but it's not the best tool this month. We better buy all the tools for everyone. And then he realized, oh my God, we're not just going to buy tools. We need to invent tools. So we're going to invent Sparky and Marty and at Walmart and all these AI agents to help everyone in our ecosystem. And as he kept doing this, Walmart kept getting better and better at AI. And secretly, their stock started going up as a result of the AI halo. And then Doug said, you know what? I need someone in my executive meetings that's an expert in this. I need an EVP level employee at Walmart who's an expert in AI. So we're going to hire this guy, Dan Danker, to be our chief AI officer. I mentioned Doug retired last year. He would be horrified to hear me share this out loud, but it's public information. Doug's last year, 2025, Doug earned $29 million as CEO of Walmart. Do you know what Doug paid Dan Danker? $42 million. He hired a chief AI officer who makes more than him to help Walmart become an absolute leader in AI. And they kept getting better and better, and Doug kept going to meetings and asking that same question over and over again. And eventually I said to Doug, why are you doing this? Why do you keep asking the same question? At first I got it, but now I don't. And he's like, Jason, I'm no longer the fishing merchant at Walmart. Nobody lets me pick a product. And John Furner, the president of US, won't let me muck with his P&L. He makes me stay out of it. And so my job is to be the chief change agent at Walmart, to let those 1.6 million associates know that they have permission, and I expect them to do their job differently tomorrow than they did today, right? And so that is my advice to all of us. We need to act as change agents for our company. I'm going to leave you with one final piece of advice. I know exactly what it feels like to sit in the audience for this talk. I've sat there millions of times, and some schmuck from an ad agency gets on stage and says, global warming, the iceberg you all live on is melting. You better jump off the iceberg and swim to safety or you're going to die, right? And I know exactly how scary it is to be that first penguin to jump off the iceberg and do something completely different than you've ever done before. And as scary as it is, I just want to remind you all that it doesn't always work out. So I'm happy to say no penguins were harmed. This is AI. But the lesson is not, oh my God, you have to be first or you're dead. You're already too late. You're not, right? This really smart professor at Wharton, Adam Grant, did a study. The people that are first, the first movers, fail half the time. The first search engine was Alta Vista. Did anyone use Alta Vista to prepare for this meeting? Yeah, but we'd all like to own some Google stock, right? And so that is my final message, is we have to be change agents within our organization, but we have to be prepared to be fast followers. We don't necessarily have to be first at everything. And I hope this has inspired you to think about things differently, and I look forward to sharing the rest of the conference with you all.
Thank you so much, Jason. Do we have questions from the audience?
I think they're bringing a mic to you.
Well, thank you so much for these amazing insights. First of all, I am Diana Medina. I work for GFT Rewards, and I've spent 20 years of my career in grocery, particularly with smaller retailers, and very much in the world of promotions and pricing and value. So I would love to hear your perspective, especially because obviously the Walmart customer is very price conscious. How do you think the industry should use these tools, these new technologies that we have available, to help the consumer from a value perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's two things I think we need to think about. First of all, when we talk about AI, it means different things to different people. What I have been talking about up here right now is the ways in which AI may create new shopping behaviors that never existed before, right? So before social media, we never had social discovery. Before mobile phones, we never had mobile commerce. Before browsers, we never had e-commerce. And now, before AI, we never had agentic commerce. So we have these new things we have to address. But I'm also going to remind you that AI helps you do all the things you've been doing for the last 20 years. And you must have started as a teenager, by the way. But all of those things you've been doing, AI helps you do them better. Right? And so all of those promotions are about offering the right offer to the right customer at the right time to maximize your opportunity. And I have a dirty secret for you. We have historically not been very good at it. We offer lots of promotions to customers that probably didn't need the promotion or weren't going to be valuable. And one of the super exciting things about AI is it lets us know each customer much better and personalize the offer to each customer much more and pick the audiences much more carefully. So the first thing I would be thinking about is how I leverage the latest AI tools to do all the traditional things I'm already doing better. And then I would also be saying, and increasingly customers are going to keep going to stores, they're going to keep discovering things, they're going to want offers in the store to help motivate them. But in addition to all that, they're sometimes going to ask the robot to solve a problem for them. And how do I make sure that when they ask that question to the robot, that I win there too? And so the unfortunate, inconvenient answer to your question is not or, do this or that, it's and. It's do this and that. At Walmart, we talk about save money and live better. Yeah. She just figured out how long my answers are for short questions, so we... Hi.
Hi. Thank you for your talk. It was very interesting. OpenAI just announced they were going to add ads to their interface now. We've been hearing about transparency and how AI is going to kind of level the field for all brands, but now ads come in the mix, and there are bottom lines to protect, obviously. So how do you see this going forward, and where do you think brands are going to be able to kind of, I don't know, intervene?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The truthful answer is I have no earthly idea. If I knew, I would have retired before Doug. But here's the thing that's super interesting. Part of the reason that we think the horizontal agents might have an advantage over the vertical agents are because of trust. People know OpenAI hallucinates. They know it gets wrong answers. But they actually don't think it gets wrong answers because it's nefarious, because it's trying to trick you. We think it just makes mistakes. We actually believe that this kind, friendly robot is trying to give us the best answer for us, right? Does anyone in here believe that Amazon's robot is trying to give the best answer for you? Or do we believe that Amazon's robot is trying to sell you something from Amazon, right? And so at the moment, the horizontal agents have more intrinsic trust, whether they earned it or not, than the vertical agents. And so they all have these different problems. And if they monetize these experiences through ads, they have to be very careful not to erode that trust, right? And so we've heard Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, talk about how there's certain kinds of ads that are helpful and don't erode trust, but there are other ads that directly erode trust, and we would never do that, right? I'm in the ad business, and every platform that I use for spamming ads started out by saying, we would never do that. And then they all do it. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm cynical. I'm watching it. I do think the experiences and platforms that win in the long run are going to win because they cultivated and curated and protected trust. And so, to me, that doesn't mean they can't have ads, but it means they have to be very careful and credible in how they do it. Great question. Last question.
I think I'm up next. So I'm Garrett Kilberry. I'm with a company called Revance, and just totally loved your presentation. Very, very insightful.
Oh, thank you.
But I love the presentation because Blue Lizard Australian Sunscreen that was in your presentation, that's our brand.
Yes. Congratulations,
We're
you
small-
won the
small-
GEO.
Yeah, small indie brand in the marketplace, but that's our brand.
Yeah. And that is part of the lesson, by the way, is that Coppertone is historically the best-selling sunscreen in the world, not because the first moment of truth is amazing, but because they hired a good ad agency. And they have a cute ad with a baby and a dog pulling its bathing suit down. Y'all remember that ad, right? And so if we can't tell quality, we use brand as a surrogate for quality, and you could spend money to build a brand. The robot doesn't use emotion. The robot uses objective criteria. And so now a product that maybe could have never competed with a giant marketing Goliath like Coppertone can now beat them, right? And that is, if you are that giant conglomerate, which some of you in the audience are, that's very scary. If you're a challenger, it's a new opportunity. But it for sure means that tomorrow is going to feel very different than today for all of us.
Awesome.
Yeah, great question to finish on. Thank you guys so much.